The restaurant glowed like a jewel in the middle of Manhattan's night. Floor-to-ceiling glass reflected back the skyline, while inside, velvet chairs and golden fixtures turned the dining hall into a cathedral of wealth. Every table was a stage for people who believed their money made them untouchable. Maya, balancing a tray in one hand, knew her role in this theater. Invisible. Waitresses here were like shadows, always present, but never acknowledged, expected to smile without existing. She didn't complain. Tips paid for her mother's medicine, for the cracked radiator in her apartment, for the possibility of something better one day. But she never forgot the unspoken rule. Power didn't live in kindness. Power lived in the people who signed the bills. That night, a man walked in who carried power like a storm cloud. His name didn't need to be spoken. His face had graced magazines. His real estate empire stretched from coast to coast. Henry Caldwell. His suit was cut to kill. His watch cost more than Maya's yearly rent. And his voice carried the assumption that walls leaned forward to listen. "Table by the window," he said, not asked. The host scrambled, nodding, almost bowing. Maya caught the flicker of fear in her manager's eyes as he motioned her over. "You'll take care of Mr. Caldwell tonight. Don't screw it up." She set the menu down before him, her practiced smile never faltering. He didn't look at her face, just waved a hand as if shooing away an insect. Dinner stretched long. Bottles of wine uncorked, plates arriving like paintings, conversations punctuated by his booming laughter. Caldwell entertained a cluster of sycophants, lawyers, investors, a younger woman who clung to his arm like jewelry. He boasted about a development deal that would wipe out an entire block of low-income housing. The table laughed. Maya's stomach tightened, but she refilled glasses silently. Then came the moment, the last toast, the last joke, the last scrape of fork on porcelain. Chairs slid back. Caldwell stood, buttoned his jacket, and with the same hand that had signed billion-dollar contracts, he pushed the checkbook aside as though it were litter on his desk. No card, no cash, no acknowledgement. He simply walked out. Maya froze. She looked at the untouched bill folder, $12,487. And in this place, when a customer walked, the server bled. Her manager's glare cut through her. "You let him leave?" His voice was low, venomous. "That's your table. That's on you." "But he's Henry Caldwell. I don't care if he's the president. If the bill isn't settled, payroll eats it, which means you." Her chest went hollow. $12,000. More than she made in 6 months. More than her mother's insurance deductible. It was the kind of number that didn't just crush you. It erased you. But in that emptiness, something lit. A small, dangerous spark. She grabbed the bill, shoved it into her apron pocket, and without a word, bolted out the door. The night air was sharp, electric, with city noise. Caldwell's convoy of black SUVs idled at the curb, engines humming like predators. He was already sliding into the back seat. Maya ran. "Sir, excuse me." Her voice cracked the night, ignored by everyone except a passing cabbie who muttered, Good luck with that. She reached the car, slammed her palm against the tinted window. For the first time, Caldwell's gaze flicked toward her, cool, amused, like watching a stray dog bark. The driver hesitated. Caldwell waved dismissively, and the SUV began to pull away. But Maya wasn't letting go. She darted into the street, blocked the vehicle with both arms raised. Horns blared. Pedestrians gasped. For one heartbeat, the city stilled around her. The SUV screeched to a stop, inches from her knees. Caldwell's door opened slowly, theatrically, as if he were stepping onto a red carpet. "What do you think you're doing?" His voice was silk over steel. Maya pulled the bill from her apron, her hand trembling, but her eyes steady. "You forgot something." Silence stretched. His entourage chuckled nervously, filming on their phones. Caldwell's smile was slow, serpentine. "Sweetheart," he said, loud enough for the crowd gathering. "Do you know who I am?" The words weren't a question. They were a threat dressed as charm. And yet, Maya didn't move. She held the bill higher, the paper like a weapon, like truth itself. For the first time that night, Caldwell's smile cracked. For a long second, no one moved. Then the city remembered itself. Horns reawakened. Someone swore. A delivery bike skidded around Maya, and Caldwell's head of security took a step forward with a look that said he had practiced removing problems, like her. Her manager, Victor, arrived at a half sprint, tie flapping, smile already oiled, and pointed at Caldwell. "Mr. Caldwell, my deepest apologies. This is a training issue." He didn't look at Maya when he said it. He never did. Caldwell adjusted his cuff, the cufflink a tiny square of cold light. "She's very enthusiastic." Victor laughed the way men laugh when they're asking permission to exist. "She's new. I'll handle it." Then, finally, the eyes swung to her, all customer service warmth replaced by managerial threat. "Inside. Now." Maya's knuckles were white around the bill folder. She didn't move. He walked out. Caldwell smiled. "Invoice my office." "You didn't authorize a card on file," she said. "Policy requires—" "Policy," he repeated, tasting the word like a joke. A few in the crowd chuckled with him, the way people do when they want to stand near power, and not under it. Victor grabbed Maya's elbow. "Inside." Caldwell patted his breast pocket, as if looking for a pen, then pulled out an obsidian black money clip and a thin titanium pen that glinted street light. He uncapped it, leaned on the SUV's door frame, and wrote something on the back of a crisp business card. The gesture had the bored elegance of a man signing away a city block. He handed Victor the card. "Have your accounts receivable? Send it to my office. They know where to find me." Victor bowed his head. "Of course." Maya, still between the bumper and the street, lifted the bill like an oath. "Sir, the total is $12,487. Gratuity not included." The faintest flicker annoyance passed through his eyes. Then the showman returned. "Keep the card. Frame it," he said to his entourage. "A souvenir of the night we educated the help." Camera phones tittered. Security eased forward again. Victor's grip grew iron. Maya stepped to the side, letting the SUV's route clear. She didn't step back. "Last chance," she told him quietly, so only he heard it. The words surprised her with their steadiness. Caldwell's gaze met hers, bored, then curious, then something like calculation. He slipped into the SUV. The door thudded shut with the finality of a vault. The convoy rolled, the reflection of the restaurant's chandelier skimming along the black paint like captured lightning until it disappeared into traffic. Victor didn't release her until the cars were gone. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Clock out. You're done. You're firing me? For asking someone to pay the bill? For making a scene with our most valuable guest, he said, and for putting the restaurant at legal risk by obstructing a moving vehicle. Turn in the apron, and don't expect your last check to be pretty. There was a wet glitter in his eyes, anger, or fear of whatever Caldwell's displeasure could do. He jabbed the business card at her like a condemnation. You want your money? Go beg his office. We don't chase whales. It's called hospitality. Behind the hospitality, Maya could hear it, the soft creak of something rotten. A system that called groveling grace and theft an accounting term. She didn't argue. There was no theater to win in that lobby. She walked back inside, heat crawling up her throat, the bill folder pressed to her ribs as if it could keep her from breaking. In the staff corridor, under the emergency exit sign that stuttered like a tired heartbeat, she stripped the apron and untied the neck strap with hands that had carried other people's wealth all night. Her locker smelled like lemon cleaner and 1,000 forgotten lunches. She sat on the narrow bench and inhaled until the air stopped shaking in her lungs. The bill lay on the metal shelf in front of her. For a moment, she just looked at it. The numbers were as indifferent as the faces at Caldwell's table. She flipped it open. Wine pairings, wagyu, caviar, the tasting menu's quiet luxuries, marching in neat columns. Her eyes snagged on a string of small print at the bottom. Check ID 431-8B. Server 28. Comp/discount. She blinked. Another slip of paper, smaller, heat-printed, and curled like a fingernail, clung to the back of the bill. She peeled it off. Pre-youth failed manager override. Instinctively, she rummaged her apron pocket for the pen she always carried, and when her fingers brushed fabric, they found something else. A key. Not hers. Short, brass, with a blue plastic fob. Someone must have slipped it into her pocket when she rushed out. Maybe on the floor, maybe at the host stand. The fob was labeled in ballpoint ink, B. Ledger. She stared at it. The restaurant had a safe with 2 logbooks, the digital system the accountants loved, and the just-in-case ledger Victor kept for catered events and VIP arrangements. Servers whispered about it the way kids whispered about haunted houses. They called it Ledger A. She had never seen Ledger B. A voice made her jump. You look like someone who just saw the check for a Manhattan funeral. Ramon, the dishwasher, leaned in the doorway with a box of empty wine bottles balanced on one hip. He was 50-ish, Dominican, always humming boleros under his breath. He had trained her to navigate the floor like a river, sliding between tables without a ripple. Tonight, his eyes were steady and old. They fired me, she said. He nodded, like he'd expected that noun since she started. Caldwell? She nodded. Ramon set the box down and came closer. He spoke softly, his breath a ghost of dish soap and steam. If you're smart, you go home. If you're stubborn, you take a picture of everything. He tapped the bill. Everything. I don't want to be smart, she said, surprised by the fierceness in her own voice. "Not tonight." He glanced toward the camera bubble in the ceiling, then slipped his hand into his apron pocket and pulled out a folded square of receipt paper. He slid it to her, without touching her fingers, like passing contraband in a movie. On it, in a neat, blocky hand, "Ask for Ledger B at close. Code 4217. E." "Who's E?" she asked. Ramon's mouth didn't move, but his shoulders made a tiny, weary laugh. "Everyone. No one." He picked up his box again. "Lockers remember things if you cry into them, but they don't keep promises. You didn't get that from me." He was gone before she could thank him. Maya shoved the bill, the pre-auth slip, and the note into her bag. She slid the brass key into her jeans, the metal warm now from her palm. The emergency sign buzzed above her, a neon insect. At the register, the hosts pretended not to see her. The floor staff watched from the corners of their eyes, with that particular blend of pity and relief reserved for the newly unemployed. Victor was at the bar, laughing too loudly at something the sommelier said. His laugh had an echo, fear trying to drown itself. Maya waited. Waiting in a restaurant is an art, not the waiting you're paid to do. The waiting after close, when a place exhales and shows the bones it hides from guests. The chandelier dimmed. The crystal was counted. The cash drawer sighed open and shut. The last table left, trailing perfume and entitlement. The music died like an aquarium filter turned off. Only then did the restaurant become honest. When she heard the walk-in's compressor kick on and the final trash bag thud into the alley bin, Maya moved. She crossed the empty dining room, its velvet lines now shadowed and stern, and slipped behind the bar. The office door was down a short hallway, unmarked, paint smudged by hands that didn't belong at chandeliers. She entered the code from the note 4217 into the keypad. The tiny green light blinked like approval. The lock clicked. Victor's office was smaller than his ego, crowded by filing cabinets and outdated software manuals. On the desk, Ledger A lay open under a brass banker's lamp, all line items and tidy numbers. Ledger B with a matching blue fob, like the one in her pocket, was not on the desk. Maya crouched by the safe. The brass key slid in as though it had been waiting its entire life for her hand. Inside, a flat, black notebook bound with elastic. Tape on the spine. B. She pulled it out carefully, the way she had once lifted her mother's wedding photo from a drawer, as if history itself could crack. The first page was names, not just guests' entities. Eunoia Holdings, CW Renewals, Longbridge Partners, Caldwell Neighborhood Initiative. Beside each, dates, totals, winked notes, comp as marketing, charge to vendor promo, offset through charitable invoice. She flipped faster. Photos of checks, photocopies of void slips, signed comp authorizations with the same metallic pen stroke she had seen on the street. Her phone trembled in her hand as she took pictures page by page. She had learned to photograph documents at her mother's clinic, where everything came with a form you couldn't afford to lose. Flash off, shutter soft, click, click, click. Halfway through, a name appeared that made her breath snag. Caldwell Properties, South Bronx, rezoning executive dinner. 18,903 house. Comp to CNI. Bill to vendor marketing. CNI. Caldwell Neighborhood Initiative, his philanthropy. The ledger had a handwriting rhythm, Victor's, but here and there a second hand appeared, sharper, more impatient. Initials, EP. Maya took pictures until the elastic in the notebook felt like it would snap from her urgency. She put it back exactly as she'd found it. She closed the safe. She turned to go. A shadow blocked the doorway. Victor. "Thought you'd come for a victory lap," he said. His voice was low, almost affectionate, the way a cat hums when it brings home something it killed. Maya's mouth went cotton dry. "You fired me." "And you hung around. That's not bright." She forced herself to breathe slowly, to let her hands hang at her sides. "I came for my last check." "You'll get it through payroll." He stepped in, closed the door behind him. The click sounded like a period, not a comma. "What did you take?" "Nothing." He smiled. "Everyone takes something. A pen, a napkin, a little moment of being right." His gaze slid to the safe, then back. "Did you take being right?" Maya remembered something her mother had said once after a hospital billing clerk made them cry for daring to ask about a payment plan. Some people push you off a cliff and complain you ruined their view. "I took my pride," Maya said quietly. "You can't have it." He watched her for a heartbeat too long. Then he laughed, not the too loud bar laugh, but the small, mean one that didn't travel far. "Go home, Maya. This is not your mountain." She squeezed past him. On the way out, she palmed Ledger A, just to feel the weight of a book that everyone believed in, because it didn't speak. She set it back down, the lie pretending to be order. In the alley, the cold air hit her like relief. She walked fast without running, the footfalls of other late-shift workers joining hers until the city became a chorus of exhaustion. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You were brave tonight. Meet me 2 blocks south. All-night diner, corner booth, by the jukebox. I can help you get paid properly." She stopped under a flickering street lamp, let the words sit. The text felt like the first breath after surfacing. "Who is this?" she typed. The 3 dots came and went. Then, "Someone tired of watching men like him send the bill to people like you." For the second time that night, she didn't take the smart path. She went to the diner. It was the kind of place that still laminated its menus and smelled like pancakes, even at midnight. The waitress, older, with lipstick that didn't apologize, poured coffee before Maya asked. "Refills are therapy," she said, and moved on. Corner booth, jukebox. A woman sat alone, her denim jacket frayed at the cuffs, hair clipped back in the way of people who needed to see the room. She looked up as Maya approached and slid a small, folded napkin across the table. The napkin was blank. Maya sat. "You texted me." The woman nodded, eyes steady and kind without being soft. "Elena Park?" She offered a hand. Her grip was dry, firm. Waitress hands, not office hands. "You work here?" Maya asked, half challenging, half tired. "Sometimes," Elena said. "Tonight, I'm your ally." The line could have been ridiculous, but she said it like someone who understood how promises break if you don't say them carefully. "What do you want from me?" Maya asked. "What you've already decided to do, but safer." Elena slid a sugar packet back and forth between two fingers, a magician warming up. Men like Caldwell don't pay because they never have to. When they do pay, it's with other people's money. His charity picked up the tab, Maya guessed. I saw CNI in the ledger. Elena's mouth ticked. You found ledger B. I found paper, Maya said. That's all. Paper is how they get away with it, Elena said. It's also how we stop them. We. The word unclenched something in Maya she hadn't realized she was holding. Who are you? Elena reached into her jacket slowly, carefully, the way you do when you want the other person to keep breathing. She placed a leather wallet on the table, flipped it open. A small, cold badge looked up like a hard truth. New York State, Office of the Attorney General. Maya's fingers tightened around her coffee mug until the heat stung. Your investigations, Elena said. White collar. Tip lines that ring and ring. Dishwashers who whisper at the end of shifts. We've been circling Caldwell for a year. We knew about the comp scheme at other spots. We didn't have inside eyes here. She tilted her head. Until tonight. I'm not a cop, Maya said. I'm a waitress who just lost her job. Not lost, Elena said gently. Pushed. She let the sugar packet rest. I need the photos you took. Maya blinked. How? Because you're careful, Elena said. And because there's a particular kind of quiet in a person who's decided to document their own erasure. She smiled, small, not unkind. Servers learn to move without being seen. That's an investigative skill set, if you want it. Maya hesitated. Will this fix anything? Or is it just one more folder in a cabinet? Elena leaned back. For the first time, the denim jacket burned off, and the steel underneath was visible. Here's what happens if you work with me. We file for a warrant with what you have. We widen. We look for the vendor offsets, the marketing comps that funnel back to shell companies, the wage theft hidden inside service charges. We bring in the Department of Labor for the tip skimming and the AG's Charities Bureau for the initiative. If it sticks, we get your wages. Everyone's wages. We get penalties. We get an injunction that forces the restaurant group to unlearn the word hospitality and relearn the word accountability. Her eyes softened, just a fraction. If it sticks, he pays. On paper. In court. And if it doesn't stick, then you go home with a good story about a bad man, Elena said, and I go back to waiting. But I think it sticks. She nodded at Maya's bag. Because you didn't just bring me anger. You brought me numbers. Maya pulled out her phone. She scrolled to the album she had created in the office without letting herself think. The thumbnails a chorus line of blank-looking pages that, if you squinted, sang. She pushed the phone across. Elena scrolled. She didn't smile, didn't frown. She made small, thoughtful sounds in her throat, like a craftsman assessing grain. When she reached the Caldwell South Bronx entry, she stopped, zoomed, and followed the pen stroke to a notation in the margin. EP. Who's EP? Maya asked. I thought it was Victor's handwriting. Most of it. Elena tapped the initials. Could be the owner, could be an outside auditor, could be a fixer. She traced lightly with her thumb. Or it could be the same EP who sent you that note. You think the person who warned me is inside this with them? I think corruption isn't clean, Elena said. It sheds skin and leaves fingerprints and forgets who's loyal to whom. Sometimes the person who helps you set a fire is also warming their hands over it. She handed the phone back. Either way, Ledger B is a map. And that key you're holding? It opens more than one door. Maya's fingers touched her pocket, as if to make sure the metal hadn't evaporated. Victor saw me near the safe, she said. He knows. Good, Elena said. Good? People who think you're reckless underestimate the work you can do when you're careful. She slid the blank napkin back to Maya. The catalyst tonight wasn't you blocking a car. It was you not flinching afterward. People flinch and then excuse themselves from their own courage. You didn't. Maya unfolded the napkin. A single line of numbers had been written so faintly that only the pressure mark remained. A blind map in fiber. Elena held up a soft pencil, rubbed gently across the surface. The numbers appeared, like a ghost taking form. 163, West 38th, Storage, B17, 2's 2 a.m. Warehouse? Maya asked. Distribution hub for the restaurant group, Elena said. Also, where vendors drop off marketing materials that turn into charitable invoices. Her eyes met Maya's. We were going to raid it next month. Your photos move the clock. I'm not a cop, Maya said again, but the protest had turned into something else, more question than refusal. You're not, Elena agreed. You're a witness. And maybe you're a whistle. Whistles sound like noise until someone trains their ear. The waitress with the lipstick appeared and topped off their cups. You want pie? Pie makes bad ideas either braver or softer. Braver, Elena decided. Cherry. Maya almost laughed. The sound surprised her with its brightness. 2 forks, she said. They ate in companionable silence, the pie bleeding red into white plates. The jukebox murmured a ballad that had comforted too many night shift workers to count. When the check came, Elena tucked down enough cash to tip like a believer. Only then did Maya realize a detail that should have been obvious. Elena had watched the entire restaurant's entrance from this booth without attracting a single eye. That was its own kind of invisibility, practiced, strategic. Why me? Maya asked, as they stood to leave. The question released itself with the steam from their coffee. Because you noticed the way he didn't look at you, Elena said. That's the kind of noticing that overturns tables and temples. Outside, the city had thinned to the people who kept it running, and the people who forgot it needed to be kept running. Elena walked Maya to the curb. A dented sedan idled there, rideshare sticker peeling at the edges. Elena opened the driver's door. You drive for extra cash? Maya asked, startled. Elena smiled. Undercover is cheaper than overtime. The smile faded, but not unkindly. If you get scared, text me. If you get angry, write it down, but don't send it. If you get followed, go somewhere loud and call 911. And if Victor calls you in to talk, don't go without me. I can't afford a lawyer, Maya said. You just met one. Maya looked at her badge again, sharp, official, heavy with promise and menace, and felt the tiniest rearrangement in her own spine, as if someone had adjusted a picture on a wall to hang straight. Tuesday, 2 a.m., Elena said, closing the car door. Don't be early. Don't be late. The sedan pulled away. The taillights vanished into a seam of taxis. Maya stood on the sidewalk and let the night air cool her face. She should have gone home hours ago. Her mother would be asleep with the TV on low, as if the soft voices of strangers could keep the wolves outside the door. She should have texted to say she was safe. She should have cried. She didn't do any of those things. She went back to the restaurant. Not inside around. To the alley that always smelled like old rosemary and wet cardboard. She stood beside the dumpster and looked up at the office window. Victor's silhouette moved across it like a shadow puppet, a man arranging his defense. If she had been anyone else, she might have thrown the bill into the trash and let the city eat it. She slid the folder out instead. With a ballpoint pen from the diner, she wrote in neat letters across the top of the itemized list. Invoice, Caldwell. Properties, amount due, $12,487. Terms, due upon receipt. She added a second line below. CC, New York State Attorney General. When she finished, she photographed the page against the brick, the grit making the paper look like evidence, not a plea. Then she put the bill back in the folder and tucked it under her arm like a book she was not finished with. On the walk home, she passed a newsstand that still sold actual papers. A headline about a city council hearing on rezoning blinked at her through plastic. The photo beneath it showed Caldwell shaking hands with someone whose name she didn't know yet, but would soon. The caption called him a philanthropist. In the apartment, her mother stirred when the door clicked. Mi nieta, she murmured, half asleep, using the nickname she'd adopted from the neighbor who watched telenovelas with her. You eat? I ate pie, Maya said, kissing her forehead. The skin there was cool and smelled faintly of lavender lotion from the dollar store. Cherry. Good, her mother said. Cherry makes bad ideas brave. Maya smiled in the dark. Who taught you that? Everyone, her mother sighed, drifting. No one. Maya showered, the hot water pounding away the street. In bed, she watched the ceiling blur and sharpen with the passing of headlights. When sleep finally came, it wasn't rest. It was rehearsal. At 1:40 a.m. on Tuesday, Maya was in a borrowed hoodie and jeans, hair tucked under a cap, sneakers quiet on concrete. The distribution warehouse on 38th Street didn't look like corruption. It looked like every other building in that row, tired, useful, unremarkable. The bay door was down. The side door was not. She checked her phone. No new texts. The brass key pressed a small, honest bruise into her thigh. She touched it once, the way people touch crucifixes before walking into rooms where they might be asked to be brave. 2 minutes, Elena had said. We go in together. Why not a warrant? Maya had asked. Because a judge will want more than a ledger before we break locks, Elena had answered. Tonight is confirmatory. We want to see if the boxes are where the ledger says they will be. We want to see if the labels match the invoices. We want to know how they move the money so we can move the law. A shadow detached from the darker shadow of a loading ramp and became Elena. Denim jacket swapped for a plain black coat, hair hidden, purpose visible. You ready? Elena asked softly. No, Maya said. Yes. That's the right order. Elena's keys were quieter than Maya's. She slipped a pick into the side door's lock, turned, and the metal sighed. Stay behind me. Don't touch what you don't have to. Take pictures of labels. If we get interrupted, you're my niece getting the wrong address. She glanced sideways. Can you look like my niece? I can look like someone who's trying not to cry, Maya said, which is most nieces. They went in. Warehouses are churches for products. The aisles rose like pews. The air smelled like cardboard faith. Elena's small flashlight found dust motes and made them galaxies. Section B, Maya counted rows, found 17. A stack of boxes towered against a wire cage, heavy-duty, locked, resembling a cage inside a cage. Labels on the boxes, CNI promo materials, donation kits, vendor, Meridian, West Services, LLC. Maya took pictures, labels, barcodes, the Ship To address that matched the restaurant group's HQ. Elena ran gloved fingers along the cage's edge. "It won't be banners in there," she murmured. "It'll be wine, or cutlery, or something they can move back out through donation, and then bill to marketing." Maya's flashlight caught a pallet tag, 483108B. Her breath snagged. "That's the check ID on the bill." "Foam under a door tells you there's a draft," Elena said. "This is the foam." A footstep sounded behind them. Not a rat, not a settling building. The specific, unfriendly sound of a shoe giving a little under the weight of a man who believes halls make way for him. Elena killed the light. "Who's there?" a voice called. Not security. Familiar. Too familiar. Victor. Maya and Elena slid behind the stack of boxes, the cardboard smelling suddenly like trees and paper cuts. A second set of footsteps joined his, heavier, slower, with the squeak of a rubber sole that had never hurried for anyone. "Look, I don't care about the optics," Victor hissed. "We've always run the comps through CNI. This is how it's done. It's clean on paper." "And that's where it needs to be clean," said the second voice, calm, amused. Caldwell. Maya's heart did the thing hearts do when they discover the room they're in is actually a cliff. Elena's hand found her forearm in the dark and pressed once an anchor, not a shush. "The AG's office, poking around your other properties, is a nuisance," Caldwell went on, conversational as a weather report. "But nuisances are how we find out which windows aren't locked." "I tightened the logs," Victor said. "And the girl who made the scene? She's gone." "The waitress," Caldwell said, in a tone that gave the job title the dignity of lint. Paper rustled. Maya could see it without seeing it. The titanium pen, the idle signature. "I don't like loose ends. I prefer receipts." He paused. The silence stretched until Maya could hear the tiny sound of her own throat, remembering it had been designed to swallow. Caldwell continued, almost gently. "You'll pack up B by morning. We'll do a charitable drop. Have Meridian invoice from their Westchester address. Keep it boring. Boring is what gets missed." "And EP?" Victor asked, his voice smaller. "Elena Park?" Caldwell sounded faintly amused. "Not our Elena. Relax." A chair creaked. There was no chair to creak. The sound came from him, leaning against a crate like he owned the air. "Initials are common. If we start jumping at letters, we'll never get dinner." Maya felt Elena's hand tighten, then loosen. It was the first time that night the investigator's breath had gone shallow. "Tuesday at 2, Caldwell said. "Consider me punctual." Their footsteps receded, the door grumbled, and the warehouse swallowed them back into the monologue of refrigeration units and distant city. Elena let out a breath, like a prayer, that didn't want to admit it was one. "We have him in his own voice," she whispered. "On a night, I told myself to wait a month." She pulled her phone from a pocket. "I wore a mic. It isn't clean enough for court yet, but it's clean enough for a judge to let me make it clean." Maya stared at the pallet tag until the numbers blurred. 43108B. The universe occasionally leaned over and showed you where it had threaded cause to effect. Sometimes it used a ballpoint pen. She took another photo, slower this time, ensuring the timestamp framed it like a frame around a face. "Exit," Elena said softly. "We don't press luck. We invite it back later with friends." They left the way they had come. The side door gave up the city like a held breath. On the sidewalk, fresh air felt like an apology. "What now?" Maya asked. "Now I wake a judge," Elena said, "and a forensic accountant." The denim jacket returned with a shrug, the badge disappearing like a secret. "You go home. You'll get a call from Victor tomorrow. He'll offer you your job back if you sign a non-disclosure. You won't sign. You'll send me the NDA. We'll add it to the pile labeled, 'They always try this.'" "And Caldwell?" Elena looked down the street, where Dawn hadn't arrived yet, but had sent a text. "He'll go to a meeting, assume the world is an extension of his foyer, and prepare to be congratulated. He'll be served soon enough." She met Maya's eyes. "But before the papers land in his hand, I want you to do one thing." "What?" "Give him the bill." Maya blinked. "I did." "In the street," Elena said, "and it made a scene. Now make it a record." Her mouth quirked. "Men like him are allergic to receipts until the receipts are public. There's a charity gala Friday. He'll be there. So will the press. I'll worry about the law. You hand him the paper in front of the cameras and say 4 words. 'Due upon receipt, sir.' Then walk away. Won't that make me look like a waitress doing her job?" Elena said. "Which is the point." They split at the corner. Maya walked toward a morning that had not promised to be kind, but had promised to arrive. She thought about her mother's breath when the inhaler refused to save the day. About the radiator that coughed in winter, like an old man telling a story no one asked for. About the way Victor's laugh had a tremor even when he was winning. About a titanium pen that had signed away more than checks. When she reached her building, she paused on the stoop and opened the bill folder. She flattened the paper against her knee and with neat strokes wrote beneath her "Due upon receipt" note. "Paid to whom it belongs." She smiled at the phrasing. It wasn't poetry. It was a wish. Inside, the apartment smelled like coffee. Ground too fine and lavender too cheap. Her mother stirred and opened her eyes. "You okay, mija?" "I will be," Maya said, and for the first time that night, she believed herself. In a different part of the city, under different lights, a man who wore power like a cologne slipped a titanium pen into a pocket and didn't notice that a cufflink, a tiny square of cold light, had come loose and dropped into the back seat of his SUV. It slid under the mat. It waited. Small things become symbols when the world tilts. A key, a note, a number, a bill. Friday was coming, and with it, a reckoning disguised as a cordial gesture. A waitress, a billionaire, a camera, and 4 small words arranged like a calm storm. "Due upon receipt, sir." The week unfurled like a taut wire. Every hour felt like it might snap under its own weight. By Wednesday morning, Maya's phone buzzed with a number she recognized, though she wished she didn't. Victor. "Listen." His voice oozed through the speaker, coated in manufactured sympathy. "Let's not make this messy. I've talked with ownership. We'll reinstate you. Same shifts, same section. I'll even clear last night's misunderstanding. All you have to do is sign a little acknowledgement. Standard paperwork. Non-disclosure, non-disparagement. You know the drill." Maya stared at the papers spread across her kitchen table. The photos of Ledger B, the copy of the failed pre-authorization slip, And the bill, still waiting, like a loaded question. She pictured her mother in the other room, coughing through sleep, and wondered how many rent checks this little acknowledgement might be worth. "I'll think about it," Maya said flatly. "Think fast," Victor replied. "By tomorrow. Otherwise the offer's gone." He hung up, without goodbye. Maya forwarded the voicemail to Elena with a single caption. "He wants me muzzled." The reply came quick. "Send me whatever NDA he drops off. Don't sign. We'll add it to the record." That night, the NDA arrived by courier in a sleek white envelope embossed with the restaurant group's logo. Maya held it like one might hold a venomous snake. She didn't even break the seal. Just slid it into her bag for Elena. But another envelope waited in the lobby. No return address. Heavy. Inside, a typed note, 4 words clipped to a small silver cufflink. "Stop digging, or else." The cufflink caught the hallway light, tiny square of cold brilliance, the twin of the one Caldwell had lost in his SUV. Her stomach dropped, not because of the threat, because it meant he knew she had seen him lose something. He was watching. She texted Elena a photo. The reply came 10 minutes later. "Good. He's rattled. Threats are evidence too." Thursday blurred into waiting. Waiting for subpoenas to be drafted. Waiting for Elena to confirm the warehouse raid was scheduled. Waiting for the gala, that glittering stage where Maya would have to stand, not as a server, but as herself. She tried to distract herself, folding laundry, scrubbing counters, boiling rice, but every ordinary task felt flimsy against the storm humming underneath. Her mother sensed it. "You're carrying something heavy, mi amor," she said, watching from her armchair. Maya forced a smile. "It's just work." Her mother leaned forward, her thin hands folded. "When I was your age, I thought silence kept me safe. But silence keeps you small. And small doesn't pay the bills." The words struck deeper than her mother knew. Maya kissed her cheek, tasting lavender lotion and quiet courage. Friday came dressed in gold. The Caldwell Foundation Gala was held in the ballroom of a hotel that looked like it had been carved from champagne bubbles and self-importance. The entrance glowed with flashbulbs. Reporters swarmed like bees to honey that reeked of money. Maya stood across the street, heart thrumming under a borrowed black dress Elena had insisted she wear. The bill folder was tucked inside her clutch, its corners sharp against her palm like a blade. Elena appeared at her side in a tailored suit that looked nothing like a waitress's denim jacket. She moved with the casual precision of someone who could blend into power as easily as she blended into diners. "Press is primed," she murmured. "They're expecting a photo op with Caldwell at 8. That's when you walk up. Hand him the bill. Say the line. Then walk away. Do not argue. Do not explain. Let silence do the work." Maya's throat felt dry as paper. "And if he refuses to take it?" Elena's eyes hardened. "Then the cameras will record him refusing to pay. Either way, you win." They crossed with the light, swallowed by the crowd. Inside the ballroom, wealth glittered in sequins and cufflinks. Waiters in starched uniforms floated by with champagne flutes. Caldwell stood near the stage, basking in the glow of laughter from men who owed him favors, and women who pretended not to fear him. Maya's pulse became the drumbeat of the gala's string quartet. She stepped forward, weaving through gowns and tuxedos, until she stood 5 feet from him. "Mr. Caldwell," she said clearly, her voice slicing through the music and chatter. He turned, his smile automatic, built for cameras, until he recognized her. For a fraction of a second, the mask slipped. Then he laughed, loud and theatrical, as though she were an unexpected comedy act. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, gesturing toward her, "one of our city's finest servers, here to join the celebration." Chuckles rippled through the crowd. Reporters lifted their cameras. Maya held up the bill. Her hand didn't shake. "You forgot to settle your account," she said. $12,487. Due upon receipt, sir." Flashbulbs erupted. Gasps cut through the laughter. Caldwell's smile froze, the titanium polish cracking just enough to show the rust beneath. For the first time, the cameras weren't flattering him. They were recording him cornered. Victor, pale and sweating, rushed forward. This is a mistake. She's—" But Caldwell raised a hand. His eyes burned into Maya's. The crowd held its breath. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he plucked the bill from her hand. The cameras clicked like gunfire. Maya turned, walked away, didn't look back. But in the corner of her vision, she caught it, the faintest tremor in Caldwell's hand as he held the paper. A tremor that said, for the first time in his life, he'd been handed something he couldn't buy his way out of. And the whole city had just witnessed it. The fallout hit faster than the champagne could settle in the guests' glasses. By the next morning, Caldwell's face was everywhere. The photo of him holding the bill expression, caught between fury and disbelief, was plastered across front pages and trending hashtags. Some outlets framed it as a quirky David and Goliath spectacle. Others as the unraveling of a tycoon's spotless image. But every headline carried the same weight. Millionaire confronted over unpaid bill. Maya sat at her kitchen table with her mother, the paper spread between them. Her mother traced the grainy photo with her finger. "That's you?" "That's me," Maya whispered. "You look like your grandmother in this picture," her mother said softly. Brave when she didn't have a reason to be. Maya wasn't sure if she felt brave. The messages flooding her phone told another story, half cheering her on as a symbol, half calling her an opportunist. Trolls spat venom in her DMs. Former co-workers sent cautious texts of support, followed quickly by, "Please don't mention my name." One stood out. "You've made a very dangerous enemy." No signature. Just that. By noon, Elena arrived with black coffee and a stack of files. She looked sharper than ever, her denim jacket swapped for a crisp blazer, but her eyes betrayed how little she had slept. "He's panicking," Elena said, dropping the files on the table. "Which means he's moving fast. We have to move faster." She opened a folder and spread out stills from security footage at the warehouse grainy, time-stamped images of Caldwell and Victor standing beside crates marked as charity donations. Alongside it were transcripts of Caldwell's recorded words from that night. "This is leverage," Elena said, "but it's not enough for a full takedown. We need the financial paper trail. The vendors, the shell companies, the falsified invoices. Ledger B gives us a map, but we need the receipts to bury him." Maya glanced at her phone. "Victor offered me my job back, with an NDA. Elena smirked. Classic move, They'll try to fold you back in, silence you, then cut you loose when the heat dies down. She tapped one of the transcripts. Don't sign. Instead, we use it. It shows intent to cover up. Maya hesitated. What if Caldwell comes after me? Not legally. I mean, really comes after me. Elena's voice dropped. That's why you're not doing this alone. My office is already drafting protective measures, and if Caldwell tries intimidation, it only strengthens our case. Threats are evidence. Maya exhaled slowly. She wanted to believe that, but the image of the cufflink in her envelope still glimmered in her mind. The media storm worsened by evening. News anchors debated whether Caldwell's oversight was proof of corruption or just arrogance. Opinion pieces questioned how many bills, like Maya's, had disappeared into charity loopholes. Protesters even gathered outside one of Caldwell's properties, chanting, "Pay the bill, pay the people." Inside his penthouse, Caldwell seethed. Victor stood across from him, pale and clammy, holding a tablet streaming live coverage. "They're making you into a meme," Victor said nervously. Caldwell slammed his glass onto the bar. "Memes fade. Empires don't. Unless you're stupid enough to let them." He jabbed a finger. "Find her. Find out what she knows. And shut it down." Victor swallowed hard. "We already sent a message." "Then send a louder one." Maya's apartment building groaned with old pipes and creaky floors, but that night it whispered a new sound. Footsteps on the stairwell that didn't belong to any neighbor she knew. She killed the light, heart hammering, and peeked through the peephole. Two men in dark suits loitered by her door, speaking in low voices. One slipped a folded paper under the frame. They left without knocking. When she opened it, the paper was blank, except for a single red line slashed across the page. Her phone buzzed seconds later. "Elena. Are you safe?" "They know where I live," Maya whispered. "Good," Elena said, her tone razor sharp. "That means we've cornered them. Pack a bag. You're staying somewhere else tonight." By Saturday morning, the Attorney General's office filed an emergency motion to freeze Caldwell's charitable accounts. The judge granted it, barely. The court document hit the news cycle like wildfire. State freezes. Caldwell Foundation. Funds. Caldwell responded the only way men like him knew how. A press conference. Standing behind a podium, flanked by American flags, he painted himself as the victim. This so-called Waitress stunt is nothing more than a smear campaign. I have dedicated my life to philanthropy. Any allegations against me are politically motivated lies designed to tear down what I've built for this city. Flashes popped. Reporters shouted questions. But Caldwell's jaw clenched when one asked, "If it's a smear, sir, why did you take the bill from her hand?" His answer was clipped, forced. As a courtesy, nothing more. Watching the conference from the safe house, a nondescript apartment lent by Elena's office, Maya felt both fury and fear battling inside her. "He's turning it around," she muttered. "For now," Elena said. "But every word he just spoke can be cross-checked against the documents. Lies don't age well." Maya glanced at the files, the evidence, the frozen accounts. What if it's still not enough? What if he walks? Elena's expression softened, but only a little. "Then we push harder. We raid the warehouses. We subpoena the vendors. We put Victor on the stand and let him sweat. And if all else fails, she placed a hand over the bill still tucked in Maya's clutch. We remind the world that sometimes the smallest receipts carry the most truth. That night, sleep eluded Maya. She paced the safe house, staring out at the city lights. Every shadow felt like a watcher. Every passing siren made her flinch. But somewhere beneath the fear, another feeling stirred. Resolve. She thought of her mother's words. Silence keeps you small. And Maya was done being small. Sunday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Ramon, the dishwasher, arrived at the safe house, escorted by one of Elena's colleagues. He looked tired, older than she remembered, but his eyes burned with urgency. I can't keep quiet anymore, he said. Victor makes us falsify vendor logs. I've seen the invoices, the kickbacks, the comp slips. I can testify. Elena leaned forward. Are you sure? Once you step in, there's no going back. Ramon nodded. I've scrubbed plates for men like him my whole life. I'm tired of cleaning their mess. Maya felt her chest tighten with something like pride. She wasn't alone anymore. The storm was building. Caldwell's lawyers filed motions. Elena's team prepared raids. The press circled like hawks. But beneath it all, Maya knew the confrontation wasn't over. Caldwell wasn't a man who lost gracefully. He was a man who struck back. And when he did, she had to be ready. The bill in her clutch was more than a receipt now. It was a weapon, a promise, and soon it would be the proof that brought an empire to its knees. Monday dawned heavy with storm clouds, though the forecast hadn't called for rain. Maya stared at the city skyline through the safe house window, the bill folder on the counter beside her untouched cup of coffee. Her phone buzzed. Elena's message. Judge signed the warrants. Warehouse raid tonight. Be ready. Maya typed back. I thought I was just a witness. Elena. Tonight, you're more than that. Tonight, you're the reason we get through the door. By midnight, the warehouse on 38th Street was no longer just steel and concrete. It was a battlefield. Marked cars idled in silence. Agents in dark jackets moved like shadows. Elena stood at the center, headset clipped to her collar, her eyes cutting through the dark with calm precision. Maya stood beside her, nerves coiled so tight she thought she might shatter. What if they hid everything already? They didn't expect us this fast, Elena said. Arrogance always buys us time. The lock cracked under the agent's tools, and the bay door groaned open. Inside, crates stacked like walls, pallets tagged with numbers that matched the ledger entries Maya had photographed. Elena's voice was steady. Catalog everything. Photos, barcodes, invoices. Seal the cage. But then, a sound. Engines, tires on gravel, headlights slicing into the dark. A convoy of SUVs pulled up, identical to the ones that had carried Caldwell away from the restaurant. Doors opened. Men in suits spilled out. And at the center of them, immaculate, even at 2 a.m., was Caldwell himself. What the hell do you think you're doing? His voice cracked the night like a gavel. Elena stepped forward, badge raised. Executing a warrant, Mr. Caldwell. You're welcome to watch. His smile was thin, venom wrapped in charm. This is harassment. My attorneys will... Your attorneys can meet us in court, Elena cut him off. For the first time, Caldwell's gaze landed on Maya. His eyes narrowed. You again. Maya's heart hammered, but she didn't look away. You still owe me, She tapped the clutch under her arm. The men around Caldwell shifted uneasily. Cameras flashed news vans had followed the raid, tipped off by Elena's office. Reporters shouted questions into the night. Caldwell's perfect composure cracked for just a second. Then, with a sneer, he turned back toward his SUV. "This is beneath me." Elena's voice rang out. "Henry Caldwell, you're under investigation for fraud, tax evasion, and misuse of charitable funds. You're not walking away from this one." The crowd roared as agents closed around the crates. Days blurred into hearings, subpoenas, and headlines. The story dominated the news. Billionaire empire under fire. Restaurant group investigated for massive fraud. Victor cracked first. Hauled into questioning, sweating under fluorescent lights, he tried to spin the ledger as creative accounting. But faced with invoices, warehouse evidence, and Elena's recordings, he broke. He admitted the scheme. He named Caldwell. He begged for a deal. Ramon testified two-voice. Steady, eyes fierce, recounting the years of falsified logs and stolen wages. His words carried the weight of 1,000 unseen workers. And then, it was Maya's turn. The courtroom was colder than she expected. Caldwell sat at the defense table, still polished, still smiling as though the room existed to applaud him. His titanium pen rested on the table like a weapon. When Maya took the stand, the prosecutor handed her the bill folder. "Can you identify this document?" Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "Yes, this is the check Mr. Caldwell left unpaid. $12,487. And what did you do with this bill?" "I handed it to him," she said. Her gaze flicked to Caldwell. "In front of the cameras, and I told him it was due upon receipt." The courtroom stilled. The judge's gavel tapped once, as if to punctuate her words. The trial stretched on for weeks, but the ending felt inevitable. With Victor's confession, the warehouse evidence, and the ledger's damning details, the jury returned swiftly. Guilty. On all major counts. The sentence was harsher than anyone expected. Fines, restitution, and prison time. Caldwell's empire cracked like glass under a hammer. Reporters swarmed Maya outside the courthouse, microphones shoved toward her. How does it feel to bring down a billionaire? She clutched the bill folder to her chest and answered simply, "It feels like he finally paid." Months later, Maya returned to the diner where she had first met Elena. The jukebox still hummed, the air still smelled of coffee and syrup. Elena slid into the booth across from her. No badge this time, just a friend. "You did it," Elena said. "We did it," Maya corrected. The waitress with the lipstick poured their coffee. "Refills are therapy," she said again, smiling as if she'd been waiting to repeat the line. Maya smiled back. "Cherry pie too?" "Always," the waitress said. They ate in silence, the kind of silence that feels earned. At home that night, Maya tucked the bill into a frame and hung it above her desk. The numbers stared back at her, cold and exact, but the handwritten words beneath glowed warmer than gold. "Due upon receipt, sir." Her mother stood beside her, eyes misty. "Looks like he finally learned who sends the check." Maya squeezed her hand. For the first time in months, she let herself breathe easy. Because the bill had been paid, not in dollars, but in justice. And that, at last, was enough.